Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever considered what it takes to keep things, perfectly cool, even hundreds of miles offshore, far from any land?
Right.
We're definitely not talking about your backyard BBQ cooler here, or even the one for your weekend fishing trip.
No, not at all. These are highly specialized, really robust cooling systems we're discussing.
Exactly. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of the global offshore marine cooler market.
And they're absolutely vital. Think about it maintaining critical equipment on offshore oil rigs, wind farms too,
Hmm.
preserving sensitive cargo on these huge container ships, and just ensuring, comfortable temperature-controlled environments for crews on really long voyages.
High performance stuff.
Definitely industrial-grade solutions operating in some of the harshest conditions imaginable, really.
Right. And our mission today is, well, to quickly get you up to speed on this surprisingly impactful kind of niche market,
Hmm.
where it stands now, where it's headed, and maybe why its growth matters to the larger global economy.
It does.
And just so you know, all our insights today come directly from a pretty comprehensive forecast provided by Cognitive Market Research.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating here, I think, is how even in such a specialized sector, the numbers, they really tell a compelling story. A story about global economic shifts and industrial growth that ripples far beyond just, keeping things cold.
Okay, so let's zoom out then. Look at the big picture first. What are we talking about globally?
Well, the global market for these specific coolers back in 2021, it stood at just over $580 million. So 580.224 million to be exact.
Okay, $580 million. But here's where it gets interesting, right? The projection.
Exactly. It's projected to jump to over $712 million, $712.9 million by 2025.
Wow.
And then really accelerates, expanding to more than $1 billion specifically, 1,076.2 million by 2033.
Over a billion by 2033. Now, that represents a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of about 5.3%, just over 5.283% over that forecast period.
Right.
What does that kind of stable growth tell you for this sector?
Well, a 5.3% CAGR for a niche industrial market like this, that's actually very healthy.
Yeah.
Quite robust growth.
Okay.
It signals a maybe quietly expanding but incredibly resilient sector. It's driven by ongoing and actually increasing demands in global maritime activities and offshore energy.
Right. Makes sense.
But it also raises that important question, where exactly is this expansion happening? Because like you said, it's definitely not uniform across the globe.
Yeah, here's where the real regional stories start to unfold, I think.
Mhm.
The market looks quite different depending on where you are. And leading the pack, actually with the highest overall growth, is Asia Pacific.
No surprise there, perhaps.
Right. In 2021, this region's market was valued at about $221 million. $221.065 million.
Yeah.
But it's set to surge to nearly $440 million. $439.091 million by 2033.
Wow.
That's basically doubling in just over a decade.
That's huge growth. And if we connect this to the bigger economic picture, China is just absolutely dominating within Asia Pacific.
Yeah.
It really reflects its massive industrial scale and, frankly, continuous investment in these areas.
So what are the numbers for China specifically?
Its market alone, it's projected to grow from around $64.33 million in 2021 to over $130 million, $130.63 million by 2033.
Doubling there, too.
Pretty much. And this isn't just about scale. It reflects China's massive investment in new shipbuilding, its expanding deep-sea energy projects, and its growing maritime logistics footprint.
So China's the undisputed powerhouse in APAC. What about other significant players in that region? Are there others worth noting?
Oh, definitely. We see really strong trajectories from other countries, too. Look at Japan, for instance. Their market is expected to grow by over 80%, hitting nearly $67.5 million by 2033. That's up from about $36.5 million.
Okay.
India, too, is registering really impressive growth. It's projected to more than double its market size in this period,
Wow.
reaching over $61 million by 2033, up from around $27.6 million.
That's substantial.
It is. And then you have other significant contributors like South Korea going from about $18.8 million to $34.6 million, Australia, $11.5 million up to nearly $20 million.
Right.
And then there's a collective strong showing across Southeast Asia as well. Countries like Singapore, Taiwan, they're all showing consistent expansion. It's really a regional growth engine, like you said.
Yeah, it really paints a picture of broad-based growth there. Okay, fascinating. Let's shift our focus now, maybe closer to home for many of our listeners. North America, what kind of growth are we seeing there?
North America represents a a solid, more mature market, perhaps.
Okay.
It was valued at about $144.5 million back in 2021, and we forecast it reaching nearly $248 million, $247.5 million by 2033.
Still decent growth, and I imagine the United States is the primary driver within that region.
Precisely. Yeah, the United States clearly anchors this market.
Yeah.
It accounts for the lion's share of the revenue.
Makes sense.
Its market alone is projected to grow from over $116 million, 116.3 M, to nearly $197 million, 196.6 M by 2033. That's driven by its, established offshore energy infrastructure, busy shipping lanes.
All that activity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Canada and Mexico also show steady growth. Canada goes from about $16.3 million to the $30.2 million, and Mexico from roughly $11.8 million to $20.7 million. So collectively, they add another significant chunk to the regional total.
Okay, good context there. And what about Europe? Always an interesting region for these kinds of specialized industries, and often, at the forefront of new technologies.
Europe holds a pretty substantial share, too. It started around $119 million and $180.9 in 2021, and it's forecast to grow to just shy of $208 million, $207.7 million by 2033.
All right. Any particular standouts in Europe?
Germany.
Yeah.
As you might expect, really, given its industrial strength.
Yeah, usually the case.
Germany really stands out as the highest performer in Europe. Its market is set to grow from about $25 million, 25.19 minutes, to over $47 million, 47.1 minutes by 2033.
Okay, so Germany's leading the charge there. Are there any other notable European trends or countries that stand out in the data?
Yes, definitely. While Germany is the largest, we see robust growth across several key European nations. The UK, for example, is projected to go from $16 million to about $29.2 million.
Okay.
France, from $13.6 million to $22.1 million. Italy is similar, $13.2 million up to $22.3 million. Spain also shows strong, consistent expansion, $12.1 million to $21.8 million.
So pretty broad growth across Western Europe.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And even, some smaller economies are making their mark. Think about Sweden, going from $8.2 million to $14.6 million. Denmark's $3.8 million to $6.3 million.
Interesting. Why Denmark and Sweden? Offshore wind.
That's likely a big factor, yeah. Reflecting ongoing investments in maritime infrastructure and, increasingly, those big offshore wind projects across the continent, especially Northern Europe. Even places like Switzerland and Luxembourg have a share, though smaller.
Okay, got it. So let's complete our global picture then. We need to swiftly cover the remaining regions. What's the story in South America, the Middle East, and Africa? Are they also reflecting this sort of global industrial growth pattern?
Absolutely. And each of these regions shows distinct, sometimes quite rapid, growth patterns, often driven by their unique economic developments and investments.
Okay, let's start with South America then. What are we seeing there?
In South America, the market is set to expand quite significantly. From about $44 million, 44.097 M, in 2021, it's expected to grow to over $84 million, 84.181 M by 2033.
Okay, nearly doubling as well. Who leads there?
Brazil leads the way, yeah.
Yeah.
Expected to exceed $30 million by 2033, up from $16 million.
Right.
But we also see strong contributions from countries like Argentina going from $7.2 million to $14.7 million. Colombia, similar number, $7.9 million to $14.6 million. Peru and Chile also showing solid growth. It points to expanding investments in resource extraction and regional trade.
Okay. And the Middle East. You mentioned energy investments earlier. That region must be significant.
It is. The Middle East is a particularly high-growth region for this market. It's projected to jump from roughly $31.3 million in 2021 to nearly $60 million, $59.374 million by 2033.
So faster growth than some other regions.
Yes, this region exhibits a particularly higher CAGR overall. And it's driven, as you guessed, by significant investments in new energy infrastructure.
Like?
Think ambitious offshore oil and gas expansions, sure, but also the development of these large-scale maritime logistics hubs.
Right.
Countries like Saudi Arabia, $9 million up to $17.3 million, and the UAE, $4.5 million to $9.3 million, are certainly leading this push. They're becoming really key players in this specialized market. Turkey, Egypt, Qatar, also contributing significantly.
Very interesting dynamics there. And finally, Africa. How does that continent fit into the picture?
Africa's market for these offshore marine coolers, it's also on a clear upward trajectory, growing from just over $20 million, 20.3 M, in 2021, to projected over $38 million, 38.3 M by 2033.
Okay. And who's the main player there?
South Africa is the dominant force within the continent, expected to reach nearly $18 million, 17.9 Navia, by 2033, up from about $9 million, That reflects its more established industrial base, I suppose.
Makes sense.
Nigeria also shows notable growth, projected to go from $3 million dollars to nearly $6 million, dollars, $5.89. So that contributes to the continent's overall expansion as its maritime and energy sectors continue to develop. The rest of Africa combined also shows decent growth.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot of ground, a lot of numbers there. So bringing it all together, what does this all mean for, for you, the listener? We've done this deep dive into offshore marine coolers, a market, frankly, most of us probably never even considered before.
Right. It's pretty specialized.
But I think the takeaway seems clear. This often unseen industry shows stable, sometimes quite strong growth across all regions. It really demonstrates the kind of foundational importance of these specialized cooling systems for global trade and energy production.
Exactly. And crucially, I think we've seen that Asia-Pacific, obviously led by China's immense industrial scale, and also parts of the Middle East, which are driven by those significant offshore energy investments,
Yeah.
they are exhibiting the highest compound annual growth rates. Now, this isn't just about the numbers themselves. It really highlights where the major strategic investments in global maritime and energy infrastructure are currently flowing. That's a marker.
That's a great point. And maybe this raises a final important question for you, our listener, to consider. As global energy demands continue to shift, with renewables and ongoing fossil fuel needs, and as maritime trade continues to evolve, how might these specialized, often unseen industries like offshore coolers, how might they reflect those larger changes in our world economy and maybe our resource management strategies?
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it, that even in the most niche markets, the ones we never think about, there are these profound trends at play, and always plenty more to explore beneath the surface.
Absolutely. Food for thought.
Welcome to the deep dive. We grab a whole stack of sources, articles, research, maybe even our own scribbled notes, and we pull out the absolute key bits of knowledge and insight for you. The idea, give you that shortcut, that streamlined understanding, so you're properly informed. Maybe with a few surprises and hopefully enough humor to keep it interesting. Okay, let's unpack this. You might be wondering, offshore marine coolers. Sounds super specific, right? Maybe you didn't even know that was a thing. But here's where it gets really interesting. Picture this critical piece of global infrastructure, something you've likely never thought about. It's quietly making our energy future possible and tackling some major environmental challenges. It's this seemingly small cog in a huge machine, but it's surprisingly vital. Complex, too. It's where innovation, efficiency, sustainability, they all kind of crash together.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how something seemingly specific, like these coolers, can reveal so much about broader global trends. It really can. So our mission today for this deep dive is basically to boil down the core takeaways, the key insights from all the stuff we've looked at on this market. We want to give you that sharp edge, that understanding of a critical industry most people just, well, don't think about. Until now, maybe.
All right, let's get into the core then. What's actually driving this market? What are these forces pushing the offshore marine cooler sector forward? Makes it such a hot commodity, even with everything shifting in energy.
Well, the biggest one, you really can't deny it, is the expansion of offshore oil and gas exploration. Simple as that, mostly. See, onshore reserves, they're dwindling. Global energy demand, still rising. So companies are pushing further out. Think places like the Gulf of Mexico, the North Sea, South China Sea, West Africa activity there is really ramping up, especially in deep water.
Okay, so more drilling offshore. But where do the coolers fit in exactly?
Well, they're absolutely critical. These operations simply cannot function without them, period. They maintain the optimal temperatures for really vital equipment engines, compressors, you name it. And remember, these deep water environments are incredibly harsh, high pressure, extreme conditions. Without good cooling, you risk overheating, catastrophic mechanical failures. And here's something often missed. It's not just about preventing failure, it's about economics. Even small gains in efficiency or preventing just one breakdown can make the difference between a multi-billion-dollar deepwater project being viable or not. They're like a financial gatekeeper in a way.
Right, so it's not just let's find energy, it's making sure the whole setup can actually cope with the conditions and turn a profit. Makes sense. But, with the big push towards renewables everywhere, how long is oil and gas going to be the main driver? Is that link weakening at all, or is it just locked into current demand?
That's a really good question. And look, while renewables are definitely growing, the sheer scale of global energy demand right now means offshore oil and gas isn't going away anytime soon. It's still huge. Which brings us neatly to the next big driver, this
Yeah.
absolute need for fuel-efficient, high-performance marine systems.
Okay, efficiency.
Yeah, because you've got stricter environmental rules coming in, plus fuel costs are always a concern, right? So efficiency isn't a nice to have anymore. It's essential for survival, for compliance. And marine coolers, they play a direct role here. They optimize the engine
How
temperature.
did that help exactly?
Well, better temperature control means improved fuel combustion, burns cleaner, burns less, which significantly cuts down emissions. And looking ahead, think about new tech like hybrid propulsion, alternative fuels. These coolers are being adapted for those too, so they're really cementing their place in future marine design, whatever fuel is being used.
Wow, okay. So they're key for today's engines and for tomorrow's greener ships. They just adapt. That's quite central. You mentioned regulations earlier. How much are these environmental and safety standards really pushing the market? Feels like they'd be a pretty big factor.
Oh, they're huge, a massive driver, yeah. You've got global standards from bodies like the International Maritime Organization, the IMO, specifically Arbol Annex 6. That's basically the rule book for air pollution from ships globally.
Emissions rules.
Exactly. They mandate control over things like NIDOX, nitrogen oxides, and SOx, sulfur oxides, and the marine coolers. They help vessels meet these targets by making sure engines run cleanly, efficiently. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, these coolers aren't just bits of machinery, they're about global compliance, about environmental responsibility. That makes them totally indispensable for any ship operating offshore today. It's quite something how this seemingly simple part connects to global clean shipping efforts.
It definitely sounds like a market with a lot going for it. All systems go. But, every powerful wave has that undertow. What are the hurdles, the key restraints or challenges holding this market back? Can't be all smooth sailing.
No, you're absolutely right. It's definitely not. The first major restraint, cost. Simple as that. High costs. We're talking installation, customization, and then the ongoing maintenance. These aren't off-the-shelf units you just pick up.
Right, they need to be pretty specialized.
Exactly. They need specialized materials, things that resist corrosion like crazy because, salt water, and tailored engineering for those extreme environments. So that translates into some pretty hefty upfront capital costs and then significant operational expenses over time. And this isn't just an issue for the big players. It can really, really strain smaller operators, especially if the economy's shaky or oil prices bounce around.
Yeah, I can see that. Tough decisions about whether to upgrade or not.
Precisely. Or even if a whole project can go ahead if those initial costs are just too high.
So the lifetime cost is a real hurdle. And with such specialized gear, what about the people needed? The human element must require some serious expertise.
Oh, absolutely. That leads us straight into another major challenge. The technical complexity combined with a, frankly, quite glaring shortage of skilled labor.
Hard to find the right people.
Very hard. Designing, installing, maintaining these complex cooling systems, it takes really specialized skills. Think HVAC experts, but with marine knowledge. Marine engineers, specialized offshore technicians, and the worrying part, there's a global shortage of these professionals.
So what does this all mean for the operations themselves?
Well, it means even minor technical issues can spiral into incredibly costly delays, especially way out in remote offshore locations. Think about, say, a single faulty sensor on an FPSO that's one of those huge floating production, storage, and offloading vessels, like a giant mobile factory ship.
Okay.
Maybe it's out in the South China Sea. If you don't have the right technician available quickly to fix that tiny sensor, poof, you could millions of dollars worth of energy production every single day.
Wow. One sensor, one missing technician. Huge impact.
That's the reality. It highlights just how critical that skilled labor is. It directly hits reliability, hits scalability for these operators.
That's stark. Okay, what else? Any other major headwinds?
Yeah, there's the market's vulnerability to, well, external forces, particularly its significant exposure to oil price volatility.
The oil price connection.
It's incredibly tight, almost locked together. The offshore cooler market is deeply linked to oil and gas exploration budgets. So when oil prices take a dive, investment in what companies might see as non-essential upgrades, like new cooling systems, that often just stops or gets slashed drastically.
Not just a slowdown, but a real halt.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah.
A sudden dramatic contraction. Then you throw in things like geopolitical instability, shifting energy policies. It all adds up, creates highly unpredictable demand, makes long-term planning a real headache for manufacturers and suppliers in this space.
Okay, clearly a challenging field to navigate. But industries always adapt, right? They innovate. So let's shift gear. What about the exciting stuff? The innovations, the emerging trends that are reshaping things. What's the future of cooling tech look like out there?
Right. Yeah, there's definitely innovation happening. One of the biggest trends, maybe the most transformative, is integrating smart cooling technologies.
Smart tech, like IoT.
Exactly. IoT-enabled sensors, AI algorithms, remote diagnostics. This stuff is becoming standard, not just fancy extras. These smart systems can automatically tweak things like flow rates, temperature levels, pressure,
Yeah.
all in real time.
And a benefit.
Oh, it's huge. You get increased efficiency, definitely. Minimize downtime because the system can predict problems, and that means significant cost savings through predictive maintenance, fixing things before they break catastrophically.
So the cooler tells you it needs attention.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, check this bearing soon or whatever. But what's really fascinating is the data itself. It's not just optimizing one cooler on one ship. It's creating entirely new business models.
Like what?
Like cooling as a service. Companies might start paying for guaranteed uptime and performance rather than just buying the physical cooler. That's a fundamental shift driven by the smart tech.
That is a leap. Moving from passive cooling to, like, proactive partners.
Yeah.
Very interesting. What about sustainability? With all the environmental pressure, how's the market responding in terms of design materials?
That's become a core priority now. You're seeing it driven by regulations, sure, but also by market demand itself. Big focus on eco-friendly coolants and materials.
Greener chemical.
Yeah, manufacturers are actively switching to coolants with low global warming potential, low GWP, and using more recyclable materials in the construction. This lines up with global agreements like the CAGR Amendment, various F-gas regulations in different regions. It's happening.
Good to hear. Anything else on the design front for sustainability?
Definitely. There's also a strong push for better anti-corrosive coatings and designs that resist biofouling, stopping marine life from growing on surfaces.
The sea gunk problem.
Exactly, because that stuff reduces efficiency and damages the equipment over time. So these improved designs extend the cooler service life in those really harsh marine conditions. It's about efficiency, yes, but also longevity. Making things last longer has a lighter environmental footprint too, right? Fewer replacements needed.
Makes sense. Greener materials, longer life, less waste overall.
Oh,
Okay, what's the final big trend you're seeing? How are these systems actually being deployed?
the big thing there is the move toward modular and custom-built cooling systems.
Modular, like building blocks?
Sort of, yeah. Think about it. Offshore platforms aren't all the same. You've got those massive FPSOs we mentioned, but also smaller support vessels, drill ships. They all have different space constraints, different performance needs.
Right, one size doesn't fit all.
Not at all. So the market needs flexibility. That's where these modular units come in. They're designed to be flexible, scalable, and importantly, easier to install. Kind of like plug-and-play solutions, but obviously much more complex. Tailored to specific requirements.
And the advantages.
Well, they save precious space, which is always at a premium offshore. They can reduce maintenance headaches because components might be easier to swap out. And it makes retrofitting older vessels much more efficient. You can add modern cooling capacity without completely rebuilding everything. It directly answers that need for space-conscious, mission-critical infrastructure out there. And, this raises an important question about how industries adapt to these incredibly variable and demanding environments. Modularity seems to be a key part of that answer. It allows for that rapid deployment, that adaptation.
Wow, what an incredible deep dive. It's just so clear that this offshore marine cooler market, yeah, it sounds obscure, but it's this truly fascinating space is where relentless innovation is absolutely meeting sheer necessity, driven by tough regulations, that global chase for performance, and just the fundamental need for energy from the sea.
Absolutely. So what does this all mean for you listening? Perhaps it's a powerful reminder, a reminder that even in these really specialized, often unseen corners of global industry, there's this constant complex dance happening between pushing technology forward, dealing with environmental responsibility, and the economic forces that are basically shaping our world and ultimately powering our lives. It's all connected.
It really is. Makes you think, doesn't it? About all those unsung heroes, those critical bits of kit quietly keeping everything running in our modern world. Definitely something to ponder. Until next time, keep your operations cool and keep that curiosity even cooler.